Good to see you guys. How's everyone doing so far? Good? Yeah. Good? Nice to see everybody.
I can't hear you!
There we go. Thanks, Gary.
No Steve Bombers. Promise that.
So you heard Brad talk a bit about Symphony Volume 2 and our Prime 23 strategy, and you're going to hear a lot about that today. You're going to see me talk, shuttle you through some of the demos that we're going to show later. But since I don't think this group probably knows as much about the Cloud9 and StreetLinx products, I wanted to kick us off by letting Jim and then Gary talk a little bit more about their product, their vision before we came as a family, and where we're going from there. So Jim, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mike. Cloud9 was formed about 7 years ago to basically innovate and revolutionize the way trader voice works. If you've been on the trading floor, you see there's 40-year-old technology, big turrets, wired lines, significant on-prem equipment. And it's rigid, it's expensive, it's difficult to turn up. And so Cloud9 was created to change all that. We're cloud-based, obviously our name, API first. We leverage a VoIP architecture so that it's a modern technology, obviously. Some of the advantages we have, you can immediately turn up your connections. You don't have to wait weeks or months to connect with your counterparties. You can turn on them in a matter of minutes, which we'll see here shortly. We also have, because we're VoIP-based and enhanced data, we have a lot of advantages around superior audio quality, more detailed metadata around the calls. So what was previously a black box that you didn't understand, you couldn't look inside, now can be fed into workflows and analytics to get a deeper understanding of what you've been talking about. So it is a really powerful tool for trader voice.
Awesome. Gary, you want to talk a little about StreetLinx?
Sure. And I know many of you in the room are probably not familiar with StreetLinx yet. But a bit of the background, the concept for our business was really started with a failed CRM deployment. And there was nothing wrong with the product. It's a great product. We actually use the product at Symphony. You'll see the product in one of our demos. But what we had was a data problem. And I think what we realized in a multi-month attempted deployment was possibly that extracting client data from 100 different touch points, all going into the customer in different areas and different regions around the world, was really just a bad process. But that the information that we were trying to maintain was readily available to our firm. And that also our clients were constantly collecting organizational data from our institution, a sell-side firm. So essentially what we do is we go into firms and we take their internal structured data and we standardize that into common taxonomies. So things like desks or role codes or titles, regions, all get mapped to things like job functions, asset class focuses, sector focuses, regional focuses. And then we provide entitlement tools to allow those firms to share portions of that data with each other. One thing we were sort of pushing back on was this sort of ingrained concept that we would hear, which is we don't give out org charts. And I think our response was, yes, we do. Anytime a client asks us for it, we do. So we get the spreadsheet, we fill it out with who the coverage reps are. We get a PDF filling in who are these different roles at these different firms. Someone at our firm spends 2 weeks going around the globe getting that together. They're doing a broker vote, we send them a roster of who the research analysts are. And so I think what we learned is with these robust entitlements, there is already trust. And there's already a network established between these trusted counterparties. And so excited to show you guys what the product looks like and how these three things come together.
Yeah, I am too. And, hopefully just for listening to how Jim talked about Cloud9 and Gary talked about StreetLinx and how Brad talked about all this, all we're focusing on all day, every day is looking at inefficiencies in the market, old processes, and taking modern technology, modern approaches, modern workflow, and changing the way that users can work. And now what we're going to do is we're going to connect all three of those to do something really exciting. So it's what we call in the biz razzle-dazzle time. So I'd like to get our star team up here, Dana Starr, Corey Starr, and Alex Francisi. They're going to be walk us through sort of our first work here. So now it's my turn with the disclaimer. These are by far and away the most complicated demos we've ever done at Symphony Innovate. These are live. We've added voice. We've added chat. Later on today, you'll see mobile. You'll see video. I don't expect a response from you. I just want to make sure you knew this was hard. As we're getting set up here, I wanted to give you, just make sure you're oriented as to who Corey and who Dana are playing. So Corey is Corey sell-side. She's our credit salesperson. Alex helping her just to make sure we're working from a workflow. And then Dana here is on the buy side. She's our credit portfolio manager. I'm somewhere either between New York and California, New York and London, or 2 avenues away. But what the key thing is here is Dana does not have a mic like the rest of us do. Everything that you're going to hear from Dana is actually running through a Cloud9 cloud voice connection to Corey. So that's why you're going to hear Dana sounds a little bit different. But with that, while we get everything up and running, I was hoping to show the StreetLinx screen so that Gary could kind of walk us through what the audience is seeing on screen.
Sure.
And here we go.
Yeah, OK, so we're starting the demo with StreetLinx, and Corey is logged in as a salesperson. So she sees a list of her clients based on her firm's coverage system. These are the clients in her network that she has access to. She can drill down into any one of those clients, and see strategies and focuses. She can also see all the individuals there, the investment professionals, the back office folks. She can search within a client or across clients, based on a job function, a sector, an asset class, a regional focus, ticker interest. So for example, you could say, which of my portfolio managers that focuses on high yield, cares about energy? Or in its most simple form, she can just look somebody up by name. So we'll start there. She already knows the client, and she's going to find them on StreetLinx.
Thanks, Gary. I'm going to walk everyone through the integration workflow between StreetLinx, Cloud9, and Symphony. I want to connect with Dana, who's my buy-side client. I wonder if she's on Cloud9. I'm going to search the StreetLinx global directory and find her name. Once I click on her, I could see more information. Look, I see she's on both Symphony and Cloud9. By clicking that connect button, I'm going to send her an invitation to both platforms at the same time. Let's head over to Cloud9. The screen is going to split, so you see both of our interfaces. For those of you not familiar with Cloud9, as Jim mentioned, Cloud9 is a cloud internet-based software solution. So anywhere you want to log in, whether it's at work, at home, when you're traveling, as long as you have the internet and your PC with the C9 Trader downloaded on it, you're able to have access to all of your voice connections. That means your direct lines, your speed dials, your hoots, your intercom, and your TV audio. In the demo, you're going to see signaling of red and green. Red means I have an inbound call, and green means that my mic is hot and I'm projecting. One of the unique features about Cloud9 that I want to highlight is that we have something called user presence. You don't only know who you're talking to in terms of the firm, but you know what individual at that firm that you're talking to and who's coming back at you. And that's really powerful. Now, just to rehash. So I sent an invitation from StreetLinx to Cloud9. So both Dana and I will see a new red invitation on our community tab. Once we go into the community tab, we go to new invitations, and both sides of us have to accept that invitation. Under new invitations, you're able to accept it, and once you accept it, you're able to put it on a page that you want of your choice. Once we send that and accept it, go back to our home screen. Both Dana and I now have that active connection on our layout. For those of you who don't like software and prefer a physical interface, this is our Cloud Hub. The connection at the same time as it was put on the software is also put on your Cloud Hub. I could push to talk on the Cloud Hub or push to open the mic with my mouse. Hey, Dana. Thanks for accepting my invitation.
Hey, Corey. Yeah, amazing how quick and easy that was. With the traditional private wires, it used to take weeks to have a connection.
Right? This is so much more efficient. Let's use Cloud9 to talk now. I also sent you an invitation on Symphony, so we could chat there as well.
Great, yes. I'm on Symphony too. Speak later.
We're going to switch over to Symphony now. Mike, is there anything you want to tell us about Symphony?
Sure, happily. So what we're going to show on the 2 screens here is our Symphony 2.0, our capital markets interface specifically, which enables both users to focus on workflows that we feel are obviously essential to what they're doing day to day in the trading desk. On the left, you have their list of chat rooms and folders, and on the right is obviously the chat room itself. What you'll see, for those of you who are familiar with Symphony, is we have a button in the top right corner of each chat. That is actually, because this room was linked to a Cloud9 connection when the room was created from StreetLinx, they can actually now access the voice channel directly from in their Symphony chat. This is enabling that seamless escalation from chat to voice, which we all know is so critical. When the market's moving, you don't want to be going from your chat platform to finding the right button on your turret. You can now do this within a matter of inches on your desktop, go from chat to voice, and do whatever you need to do when the market is going. So I think that's really important, and we'll go from there.
Now that's super cool. We're going to go back to the demo now.
That literally used to take weeks, like, or months.
Could you refresh the market on CCL 29s?
Yep, one sec. 97 at 98 works on 5.
Okay. I can pay the half out too.
One sec. I gotta repeat. 90 at best.
Okay, nothing done.
No worries, talk later. Womp womp. Dana did not accept my offer.
It's okay, Corey, don't take it personally. So what you saw, just to recap, you saw Corey immediately be able to establish a connection on both Symphony and Cloud9 with Dana via StreetLinx. You saw the flexibility of Cloud9 where both sides could set up their dealer board however they wanted to do it. And then you saw the connection with Symphony, where a user could immediately start a voice channel from their Symphony chat, escalating back and forth. Now, Gary, Corey missed the trade here. This happened on the desk. You spent a lot of your career sitting on a trading desk. Tell us a little bit more about the workflow now and what would have happened.
Sure. So the situation's not dead. It's still an opportunity, right? Because bonds have probably not traded in the last minute. And so obviously Corey knows her client because my former traders would be like, why didn't you get the order? She knows that Dana doesn't leave orders. So now it's sort of on Corey to keep an eye on the price action. Maybe we run into a seller and make sure that she gets that back in front of her client. Now, in an ideal world, I would be going into my 15th system, which was our inquiry capture tool, and I'd look up the QSIP, and I'd put the client's name in, and I'd put 2 million, and she carries up to half. And that would enable another workflow, like if the bond's traced down at that indicated level, I would get an alert.
Now, how often did you really do that?
I have done that. The reality is, you've got 5 more lights ringing, you've got blinking chats, and somebody waiting on hold. So you're on to the next wire, and this is just one of 50 things that you're trying to keep track of over the next couple of days.
Yeah, and this is a story we hear all the time from our customers, large and small, that they have too many systems. They know what they should be doing, but they don't have the connectivity to make that happen. And for us, fundamentally, the principle that Symphony was founded on, the principle that Cloud9 was founded on, the principle that StreetLinx was founded on was very much we want to enable user connectivity and user workflow seamlessly, but we also want to help the organization. And we do that we are open, all platforms with their open API approach so that our customers can access the right data at the right time to enable those downstream workflows. And those downstream workflows may be leveraging their own proprietary artificial intelligence or machine learning capabilities, or they may be partnering with another player either that we know or that they don't, or that they know. But the key here is by using these platforms, and our forward-thinking technology-first approach, they can go further from there. So let's bring it home, Corey, and show us the final part of the demo.
Today, in order to enable the downstream intelligence, we've partnered with VoxSmart and leveraged their speech recognition technology. They automate the process by taking our transcription and putting it into both Symphony and my CRM. If I go into Symphony and go to my coverage room, you're able to see the transcription of the conversation that Dana and I just had. Because I have Symphony integration with my CRM, you're also able to click directly into my CRM tool. This type of automation creates efficiencies and saves me a ton of time.
Awesome, that's great. And obviously we've been practicing a lot by what you see on the screen. Excellent. Jim, you want to talk a little bit about what Cloud9 does with transcription and how it enables it?
Yeah, sure. One of the really unique things about how we record audio is we do what we call multi-channel recording. And so each speaker is on its own channel. So not only do you know what was said, you know who said it, which is super critical for things like trade reconciliation or trade dispute kind of discussions. This was just two people, so pretty easy to know who was talking. But if you had a bunch of people in a chat, it's really critical. So definitely revolutionizes how you look at what is being recorded and how it's going to be transcribed via transcription engine.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. And obviously, we've only been a family for 4 months respectively, 3 months respectively, and I think what's most exciting for me is how our products are starting to come together, but also how our teams are coming together, and the numerous whiteboard sessions and sleeve roll-up, and our product engineering design teams really getting together and making this happen. So it's been really exciting. Now, where do we go from here, guys? This is the tip of the iceberg. Jim, talk a little bit about what we've been talking about with Cloud9 and Symphony and where we go from here.
Yeah, sure. So what you saw today was all based on open APIs, as Mike talked about. We have an API approach, so does Symphony and StreetLinx. So this was hooked up in a matter of months through the APIs. And this will be commercially available in a few months. So you'll be able to have this in Symphony and Cloud9 going forward. What we're looking at in next year is basically looking at, Cloud9 is focused on traders, but we're looking at trader adjacent users. That's middle office, back office. And leveraging Symphony and the connectivity and presence that Symphony has with those users by building like a Symphony extension app where we have Cloud9 embedded in there. And so you're on Symphony, you can leverage all the capabilities of Cloud9 natively in Symphony. And then the long-term vision is bring all the apps together completely. It's a single app with a great user experience. Everything you need to do on Cloud9, you can do in the Symphony, in the unified app. And obviously leveraging the community and capabilities of StreetLinx.
Awesome. Gary, you want to talk a little about the forward?
Yeah, I mean, that to me is just an incredibly exciting building block for what so many of our customers have been spending years investing in, and that is around tracking and putting structure around interaction data. So I think being able to leverage the Cloud9 multi-channel functionality to take voice, and because it knows who's talking, right, can transcribe that into a chat, which many of our customers are already going through and looking for metadata within those chats. Like you could imagine in the example that we had, CCL 29s, that's a bond, right, with this QSIP. And we think that there was an offer here, and we think there was a target level. So for things like getting things into the inquiry system, like it wasn't that I didn't want things into the system. It's better for my client. It's better for me. It's better for our system if we can make sure that we're matching up buyers and sellers. But to be able to, whether it's 3 weeks from now, get a notification and say like, you had a client that was talking about this bond, or we think they were talking about that, is extremely powerful. And I think it has implications beyond, sort of inquiry and trading, like things like trade breaks, or when, did somebody say done on the trade, or when were we talking about, that name or that sector or this topic, and just to be able to cover your clients better, have a extra set of memory, sort of behind you.
It's the full conversation, right? It's end to end on all the activity.
Yeah, and so much of the engagement is on voice. So I think that many of our customers have already gotten sort of previews conceptually about what we were doing here on the demo and helped us shape it. So really excited to just show folks in reality that work stream, grabbing the conversation, transcribing it, and then dropping it over into our CRM without anybody lifting a finger.
Yeah, and we've talked a little about this internally. We think the word trader voice isn't really the right word anymore. It's always been the wrong word, but for us, it's really about market's voice and connecting all the market participants with our voice channel, and then going deep in terms of the data and automation downstream.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Dana, Corey, Alex, thank you so much for helping us with the demo. Jim, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, well, I just mentioned, clients and partners who had, helping us shape our solutions, and we just previewed one of them. So with that, I'd like to bring up one of those partners and clients, Alejandra Villagra, who is the global head of digital solutions and Citi Velocity. Can you please join us on stage?
Yeah. Hi, guys.
Hey, Ali.
Hey. Hi. Nice to see you all in person.
All right, so we just did the demo.
Impressive, by the way. Wow.
Thank you
Very
for the
impressed.
back pat there.
Yeah.
And You and I and the team at Symphony have talked a lot about network creation. Brad mentioned it in his opening remarks. And the importance in reducing friction, reducing barriers to entry, and just having folks with access to their network. How do you think about this as it relates to velocity, as it relates to Symphony, and where do you think the market's heading?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to networks, we really, all we have to do is look to our personal lives for direction. I mean, consumer tech is absolutely leading the way here, and I gotta say, like, networks and platforms rule these days. And when you're putting that into context, and your clients, and in fact many of your clients I think are gathered digitally today, and when your clients are meeting and interacting digitally on a platform, and you are servicing and executing digitally, that network, that client network, like, raises to the level of almost holy in my mind. And anything that creates a barrier to entry for network building is something that we need to collectively think really creatively about how to reduce frictions on. And it's actually very early days Symphony. I won't say exactly how early days because I'll be dating myself, but very early days Symphony, Citi actually got behind the idea of eliminating that connection request. And I think that that's something that we need to kind of sort of revive.
Dust off the playbook?
Let's dust this one off. And so for any of you in the audience who are in the buy side, on the buy side, or for those of you who are online and on the buy side, Citi felt like, listen, we want our people to connect to your people, and we don't want to make it hard. We don't want it to be a free-for-all. Like, I'm not talking about bots like pinging you left, right, and center, and But I think that we do want our staff to connect with one another. That's the whole purpose here. So
would you say that if a client wanted to, say, like, message their salesperson or their prime brokerage rep, they should be able to do that?
Yeah, they should be able to do that without any friction and without any barrier to entry. It feels pretty obvious, but that's an idea that we are definitely dusting off and looking for partners for anyone who might be interested. So, to get back to your original question, I think that we are squarely moving into a world where networks and platforms rule, and those who have the network will win.
Yeah, no, I think that makes total sense. And as everything you've heard, we're so focused on networks and connectivity.
So on that network building, my turn to give you some props. Last I read, Citi Velocity has 100,000 institutional clients in over 150 countries around the world. Brad had mentioned partnerships and integrations. It's going to be a theme that we hear a lot today. How does Symphony's refocus on interoperability and partnerships fit into your digital strategy and growth plans at Velocity?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for the shout out. Very proud of the size of that network. Obviously, we're putting our money where our mouth is when it comes to network building. That was a decade of blood, sweat, and tears the team put into building the network. And it's actually 157 countries. I think I had to ask my crew at one point, are there even 157 countries in the world?
We'll send around a list of the countries.
Yeah, and they were like, yes, Allie, yes, indeed there are. So that data is correct, 157 countries. No, but in all seriousness, to me, it's not a question of does interoperability fit into your strategy. It's like, if you're not interoperable, you're dead upon arrival. So I'm thinking, I mean, you guys just did a phenomenal demo showing the power of interoperability, but getting back again to kind of the bar that has been set by consumer tech in our lives. So I've got some multi-factor authentication challenge to get into some application, and I get an SMS message on my phone, and it's automatically copied and pasted, and I go to my app, and it's like, oh, would you like to put your authentication code in? And I'm like, why, yes, I would. Thank you, phone. And if you care about your user, like, if you care about your users and you care about your network, you are going to be interoperable. So I don't really think it's a question whether it's for Velocity or Symphony. If it's a question of does it fit into your digital strategy, it's like, this is existential. Like, it must fit into your digital strategy, because if your network is sacred to you, then you got to embed these kinds of services.
Yeah, like in my personal life, I refuse to write my address anywhere. Like, you know who I am.
Why should
Like, why is there not a pop-up here telling you what my email is? You just sent me an email. So
We all do business
you.
where it's the easiest to do it, and that's just the nature of it. Wherever we can remove friction, we absolutely need to do that. Now, Citi has, with Symphony and elsewhere throughout the market, you've always been at the forefront of interoperability, of apps, of bots, of openness. Why has this been such a priority for Citi, and how do you see yourselves fitting into the broader industry path in this space going forward?
Yeah, so I'm going to quote my husband on this one. He likes to say, don't stand in the way of progress. And that's kind of like the G-rated version. It's more like don't stand in the way of progress or it will expletive run you over. And I think that's sort of at the core of my beliefs. And I think, so let's talk about a couple of things. I think open platforms, interoperability we've touched on, but also automations and bots. And I've been a believer of open platforms, which, by the way, is something I think that Symphony is leading the way on, and I think one of your single biggest differentiators, so I just really want to emphasize that. But I sort of got familiar in a very lived way with open platforms in the very early days of Velocity. So when we first started building the product, probably because I'm a bit of a type A control freak, we were pretty closed. And it felt like a little bit easier to manage and something I could wrap my arms around. But very quickly, we realized we had no scale and our time to market sucked. So happily, quickly, under the guidance of my brilliant tech partners, we switched from sort of a closed system to a much more open system. And when we did that, our time to market and our scale just absolutely exploded. And suddenly, and not just time to market and scale, but suddenly we had people working on Velocity that I didn't even know existed. So just the sheer number of people who are involved and driving innovation for us exploded. So kudos to you guys for the the bold and brave step of becoming more open. And this is something that, after that experience with Velocity, I've come to embrace in my role with the Finos organization that I think you'll hear a little bit more about later. But this is definitely a key differentiator for you. So interoperability, I think we touched upon. It's existential. If you don't do it, you're dead upon arrival. So that one I think is clear. But let's talk a little bit about bots as well, because this is another one that's near and dear to my heart, and I'll borrow from my husband again. So we recently got a new car, which was awesome considering the supply chain issues. But we did manage after a long wait to get one. And it has adaptive cruise control. Have any of you guys driven a car with adaptive cruise control? Hands. Okay, right. So one drive later, my husband is like, that's it. Never driving another car without adaptive cruise control again. I am done. Like, this is better. And it was just one of those things. And he's a good driver, by the way. But, he's just like, the car saw things that he didn't see. It perceived things that he didn't perceive. And this was just a really simple, powerful example to me that machines do certain things better. Like, we don't have to argue about it. And I think, it's a little bit of how I think about bots in our industry. There are things that can and should be automated, and Symphony has created an ecosystem where it is possible to bring that to life, and that is transformational. I believe from the bottom of my heart that people need to do what people are good at. Sort of Brad mentioned it a bit in his keynote. Let us build relationships. Allow us to think creatively, and anything that a bot can do, let it take over.
No, I think that's great. I think, for us, taking your car analogy one level further, we're not inventing the wheel here, but I think for us, we're taking those wheels, we're going on a new road down financial services, and we're powering them just to go that much stronger over this terrain. And I think I'm excited for the journey. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's one of these things where it's like, as soon as you know that the technology exists and it's there, you need to have the option to have it. And I think for so many of, our clients and colleagues, there's just so many portions of the day where you're just like, I can't believe I'm doing the job of a machine, right? Like this, because, if you're a salesperson, like you should be deal making, right? Like if you're a research analyst, you should be analyzing and not, jumping around platforms and, again, churning.
Big tech has handed us the roadmap. We just have to follow it.
The world has solved this problem.
Yes.
We just got to adopt.
100%. And you will be hearing at the end of today, there'll be a panel about interoperability featuring Dietmar Fauser, our CIO, who just recently joined the board of Finos, along with many other market participants who are very passionate about this space. So if interop is something you're excited about, and you'll hear a lot more about it throughout the day, that something to look forward for everybody. But with that,
Thank you, Ali.
thank you very much, Ali.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. Seeing the power of these three platforms come together in such a seamless way shows how truly incredible workflows can be unlocked. A special thank you to Ali Villagra from Citi for joining us to share her take on this and for a great conversation with the team. What a great start of the day, don't you think? Thank you all for coming, for being here right now. So now we're going to have a quick break. Please help yourself to coffee or tea, and we'll start again at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. See you then.